Hey everybody, Pork from Nightwatch Games. I wanted to show you something I'm working on. This is the game known as Gears of Glory, part of my Of Glory series. We have Gauntlets of Glory, Guns of Glory. This is Gears of Glory. And I recently actually discovered a game that I had made 10 years ago that was based on Star Wars X-Wing, and I'm going to call that Galaxies of Glory. So really pimping out this glory motif. Anyway, this is Gears of Glory. Wanted to show you some progress I made. Pretty happy with it. The idea behind all the Glory games is that you have two portions of your character that come together to make a complete character. So in this game, you have a chassis. This is known as the Scout. It's one of the lighter mechs that you have. And it has some stats here on the left-hand side that have no bearing yet. But then you also have a pilot side. This is the recon specialist. And you can see that the stats are your attack stats for ballistic, laser, missile, melee, and your sensors. And then down here, you also have your movement. So if you walk, you have 3 inches, running 4 inches. And if you can jump, you can do it 3 inches. But that's just your pilot half. If you take your chassis half and you click them together, a la magnets, you have now a complete stat line where your ballistic skill is actually 4 plus 2, so that gives you a D6. Your laser is a 6 plus 6, that's a D12. 6, 4, and 12. And then you do the same thing with your movement. You can walk 6 inches, you can run 9 inches, and you can jump 7 inches. And so that becomes your complete recon specialist in a scout character. And along the chassis half, you have your sections that can be damaged as you receive attacks. And so I have started working with a small prototype idea of dials where you keep track of the value of that particular section. This is pretty rough. I think the dials need to stick out a little further so that you can rotate them without having to lift up your dashboard. But you have them for all the sections, and they show you when you are dying. In most mech games, heat is a big issue. So down here we have a heat tracker for your chassis, and then there's this sliding pointer that can show what your current heat is for your chassis. Each weapon, as you see on the chassis, you have these little, these are going to be wells. I think I'm going to make them so that your card sits into them, but right now they're just outlines. But when you find something on the battlefield, again, this is going to be a plastic card, not a piece of paper. You can place that weapon in the particular zone where the outline, that's red if you can't see on the camera, matches the type of weapon that you found. And the shotgun has red text, so you have to match the red with the red. And the second thing is you have to match the size of the weapon with the size of the well that the chassis has. So this is a small weapon, and it would fit right there in the red well up in the shoulder piece. It's also damaged. You can tell that by the caution border around the edge. If you spend glory, you can actually change the damage version to the pristine version, which has better stats. And then you can see that there's range, there's damage, there's a heat buildup every time you shoot it. And then at the end of turn, the weapon can sink some of the heat. Sometimes it doesn't sink all of it. And then that orange square is where you track your heat for that particular weapon. And if you have more heat than the weapon can handle, then you have bleed over onto the chassis, and you obviously can overheat that way. But there are different size weapons. So you have, this is a small, this is a medium. I don't think I have a large with me right now. No larges. But they all have a damaged version versus the pristine version. And when you loot something off the battlefield, you automatically get the damaged version. And then you have to use glory to fix the damaged version into a pristine version so that your stats are improved. Much like all other Gauntlets of Glory games, or not Gauntlets of Glory, Glory games, you have a bag. And when you loot the salvage on the battlefield, these are the tokens that show you what it is that you find. And then you would pick up the appropriate card and put it onto your chassis if you have a slot that fits it. That's the other thing, is sometimes you're going to find weapons that don't have a slot. Good example is this guided missile. It's a medium-sized guided missile, but my chassis for the Scout has no medium slots. So I wouldn't be able to use this. However, if I did find a small laser, there is a yellow small laser slot right there, and I can start pewing. Let's see what else. There's a little dice well here so that as you pick your movement rate, you put a dice there to signify what the movement is that you has for the turn, because that will affect your offensive capability and also give you defensive capability. It's very sort of battle techy. You know, a lot of stuff has already been established by some of these long in the tooth type of games. But the thing that I'm changing is the salvage on the battlefield in real time, and then your dials for keeping track of damage, and then of course the glory component where you have a chassis and a pilot, and the two come together to make your complete character. Anyway, pretty excited. I need to really play test this. So if anybody's interested in rolling some dice and seeing how the battle mechs work, give me a call or give me an email or send me a private message or whatever. Right now, we also are playing with the idea that the mechs are magnetic, so that if you find a component on the battlefield, you literally click it onto your mech chassis and everyone can see that you just picked up that particular weapon and it is attached to your mech. So we have lasers, ballistic stuff, you have missiles, you have jump jets, heat sinks, and then all sorts of kind of really esoteric kind of weapons that are kind of rule breaking. But we have lots of different mechs. These mechs that I'm using as proxies are from Steel Rift. It's a pretty good game. And I think the mechs are too large for what I want to do though, because I think I'm going to stick with Battletech scale mats and terrain, and these guys are just a little too big, so I'll use these for now, but I think I'm going to make my own line of smaller mech miniatures. All right, let's see, what else do we have? The initiative deck is actually 15 cards, and they each do something quite unique. There's your initiative bid here in the lower left, and then the text box gives you what's the modification for the battlefield on that turn for your team. And then over here is how much glory you start your turn with. So in this regard, this is very similar to Gauntlets of Glory. The difference is I have 15 of them, and so you have a lot of options. And the same thing is when you pick an initiative card for that turn, this card is burned for the game. So you have to use your options strategically throughout the game because you lose them. I don't expect a game to go longer than 15 turns, but that's what playtesting is all about, to find out if that is the case. Lots of different pilots. I think I've done 10 different pilots and 10 different chassis. That gives us 100 different combinations and tons of weapons and ideas for other equipment to make looting exciting random kind of thing to do. The the rules are complete. I have this done. I sort of did this in record time. Gears of Glory, and then the end result for what the rule book will look like is this nice glossy stuff. And it's got a pretty cool aesthetic to it. It's supposed to be this industrial mechy type of texture. And I think I did a pretty good job there. If anyone wants to get involved in this kind of project, I've been doing this solo, and it's difficult because I really work better by bouncing ideas off of people. So if anyone wants to get interested or wants to get involved by showcasing some ideas and giving me some feedback and all that kind of stuff, I am very willing for the extra hands, extra minds, and extra eyes. All right, I've rambled on enough. This is Pork from Night Watch Games. Thanks for hanging out. See ya.